Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the first series of the UKRG afternoon chats. We're recording on Friday the 8th of May. I would like to introduce Charlotte Dew for our first chat. She's very kindly agreed to come along and be recorded. Charlotte is a consultant and curator specialising in touring and partnership exhibitions. She manages the professional development and research programmes for the Touring Exhibitions Group and the public programme at Goldsmith Centre in London. She is author of Lending and Borrow Experience Report and the Economics of Touring Exhibitions Survey Report of 2015, and has written for a range of publications, including the Museums Journal, Ceramic Review and Crafts. Formerly, she held curatorial roles at the Crafts Council, the National Archives, the Mercer's Company and the Women's Library, and has undertaken consultancy for the Barbican Art Gallery, Southwest Museum Development, Museum of English Rural Life and York Art Gallery. The purpose of this little series is to have a series of people who are experts in their field to whom we can address 3 or 4 quick questions which we hope are at the forefront of people's minds, and therefore for a quick watching experience to answer those. So without further preamble, we'll go straight into the first question. Thank you very much, Charlotte. So what are the key questions that you have encountered from your membership in this crisis?
So it's interesting. In many ways, it's been quieter than usual. And I think that is maybe because a high percentage of people are furloughed. But from those that we have been in touch with, there's a sense of wanting to understand how others are dealing with things in the absence of clear guidance on when things will start to change. So wanting to know what decisions other people are making to help inform your own. And I think that that is indicative of a sense of not knowing across the board. So in terms of that, to understand whether people are postponing or whether they are cancelling exhibitions, how they're dealing with contractual issues, how they are managing communications when people are out of office and not able to respond. But I think that, it's been quieter than I thought it might be. And I was reflecting in view of your question on why that might be. And maybe, although it feels like we've been in a lockdown for a long time now, in our 6th week, perhaps we've not come to the crunch of the duration of when exhibitions would be closing and changing over yet. So, that must have happened in some instances, but maybe if we last another 6 weeks in this situation, some of those more meaty and pressing questions are going to pose themselves, because there will be people reaching changeover periods. One thing that we have noticed is that our membership renewals are really strong at Touring Exhibitions Group, and that's something we perhaps didn't foresee being the case. We'd predicted that organisations might not be able to retain their membership. We hope that's a good sign in terms of touring exhibitions having a strong role to play when we come out of this situation, because particularly with furloughed staff who haven't been able to develop exhibition projects that they might have been planning to, or international exhibitions having to be postponed or not taken up. Our constituent membership, which is mostly British UK galleries and museums, there's a strong position, I think, for touring products that are turnkey, that you can receive and have an exhibition when perhaps you haven't had the time or even resources with budget cuts to be able to develop your own show. So I wouldn't say that we've been posed too many really challenging questions yet, but we think that that will change as time moves on and we stay closed for longer.
You were mentioning about that and about the role afterwards, and I think that there is a question to come on that, but do you think possibly that with programmes also in such flux that institutions and individuals are starting to look more at the market, as it were, for touring exhibitions that might be available in order to reconstruct programmes after this?
Yes, I mean, I think that traffic to our website has been strong, and as I say, membership renewals have been strong. The American Alliance of Museums earlier this week ran their forum for people to share information about exhibitions. That was well attended, and we were interested to see, you know, the sort of things that changes people were making in light of COVID within that forum. And I think it mainly hung around, you know, the safety of staff installing and deinstalling, the challenges of movement, but also how we deal with very interactive exhibitions, which actually might have to come out of the marketplace for a period of time because they won't function in quite the same way. And one which I hadn't really foreseen, which is the increased demand for outdoor exhibitions as a way to start engaging your audience in a safe external space, which I think is very interesting because external touring exhibitions do exist, those large scale photographic exhibitions, but perhaps the take up, you know, they have a smaller market share, but you can imagine within this new normal they might have a larger share of the market. But we hope and think that touring can be a solution when you know other things have had to shift and be adjusted, certainly.
As we start to emerge from this, therefore, do you think that the Touring Exhibitions Group might serve a purpose both for technical questions, but also as a hub for longer range questions and answers about the future of touring?
Yes, I mean, as an organisation, we're always really interested to engage in the debate around the future of touring. Our own thinking in recent years has actually been that partnership exhibitions is a much better description of the work that people who tour or travel exhibitions undertake, and that's where the really sort of positive outcomes are when it's embraced as a partnership. And I think that in this, as the sector recovers from this, partnership is going to be really, really key, because it's doubtless that we're all going to be challenged from a resource perspective. And our research has shown that working in partnership, although you have to invest some time in the early stages, actually the ability to get funding, to cost share and to maximise resources is you know, a real benefit. So yeah, we'd love to be involved in that dialogue and would hope to be able to lead the way on that for our members in terms of thinking how they might navigate this new world.
So talking of partnerships, I'll go on to my next prepared question, I'll say. So so in terms of lending on touring exhibitions or partnership exhibitions now and after the lockdown, what does the Touring Exhibitions Group think the larger institutions could be doing or doing more of to support the sector overall?
I think this is a really interesting question, because I guess that there's always a presumption that larger organisations have more capacity and are better resourced, but quite a lot of our research to do with lending and borrowing has shown that the pinch is just as tight in large organisations as small ones. So in reflecting on this question, I was thinking, actually, I think across the board, all organisations need to be supporting each other. It won't be just a case of the larger ones supporting the smaller ones, although I do think that particularly national museums and large museums will have a strong role to play in lending and borrowing within country, because I think to kind of keep our programmes fresh and to build on existing partnerships, maintaining that lending and borrowing practice, where there could be a temptation to stop doing that because of, you know, financial reasons and other pressures. I do think that being able to bring in key pieces and maintain those programmes will be important. So I very much hope that larger organisations won't cease to lend. And actually they may have the capacity to focus more nationally in the absence of being able to travel internationally. So readily. More widely though, I think we need as a community to be supporting each other through really good communication at this time, because obviously we have contracts and legal arrangements to fall back on, but it's a real risk in terms of damaging partnerships and creating difficult financial situations if organisations aren't being flexible, talking to each other, communicating what's going on, and really working together on solutions to, you know, the shifting timescales and schedules and all those things. I mean, the other thing I think is that there's a partnership that needs to be maintained with large scale lenders, with, you know, the transport companies, working out how disruptive programs can most effectively be you know, overcome by working together, and there are obvious cost savings through that working together, hopefully, and potentially putting fewer staff members at risk if you can share careers and collaborate in that way too.
So taking the temperature of the membership as a whole, and I suppose after the immediate and very practical measures that have to be taken, like you say, for tours that are halfway through or about to leave or so on, do you get a sense of a reasonable amount of optimism about the future of the touring landscape in the future?
Yes,
landscape?
well, I think the international market is really unknown, because different countries are at such different stages, and the challenge of thinking about how your staff can remain safe, and also if countries go into lockdown, I think the issues around insurance and risk to work. So I think on an international stage it's much more challenging, but I think domestically then you know, there's reason to be optimistic, and naturally as a sector we're stronger if we find ways to collaborate on exhibitions and repurpose content, and think really practically about how we bring the best to audiences by working together.
On the matter of communication and partnership, can I ask you a slightly more detailed contractual type question there?
Yes.
So are you forming a collective view across tour venues, with those you've spoken to, on how to deal with apportioning costs in cases where a tour has been disrupted, and whether this might differ from the laid down contractual position where force majeure didn't apply?
I would love to be able to say yes, but there are two things really. I think it's too early to say. There are not enough examples to know exactly where people are with this issue. As I think I mentioned in the answer to the first question, quite a lot of organisations haven't yet decided whether they're going to cancel certain shows, which I think will obviously contractually bring a lot into play regarding deposits and costs and those kinds of things. So those decisions haven't necessarily been made, but I think they will be starting to be made. But the other thing is, I think as a sector, we don't operate on a sort of even playing field in the first place as regards how we charge and how we make arrangements for exhibitions. TEG has lobbied quite a lot for more transparency around this area of practice, and also putting a focus on, particularly within Nation, working on a cost recovery basis. But I think that the myriad different ways that people work together, actually finding a collective view on this is going to be quite challenging. But having said that, I think if organisations who find themselves in this position are talking to each other and looking to resolve it in an open way that suits both organisations, rather than sort of wading in with a more legal approach, then there has to be a good resolution. I think as a sector in this country, we are very good at supporting each other. So one would hope that positive resolution can be made.
Thank you very much indeed. I will call a halt there, just to say thank you very much, Charlotte, for your time. And to everybody watching, please keep in touch. Check the UKRG website and Twitter feeds, similarly the Touring Exhibitions Group website. And do let us know if you have any more questions that you'd like to pose that we can follow up on, or indeed put to our future interviewees. Once again, thank you very much, Charlotte.
Thank you.